bad at all.
Okay, we're going to do a little bit of tuning on the Mustang here on the Sniper 2300. Got the wide open throttle working pretty well. I think it might still be a little bit lean, but we'll get to that. Did get the exhaust installed. I started making a video of that, but I had somebody else install it and do the fab, so I'll probably just stick that at the end of this video if you're interested in watching it. I won't bore you with it now. There's not a whole lot there, but as you can see, got the header on it, turbo mufflers, the whole 9 yards. Got my vacuum gauge hooked up. We're going to be playing with the idle today. I want to see if I can eke a little bit more idle vacuum out of this, get some idle quality out of it. These log heads by the folks that I've talked to that have all the 2V conversions, they say you're never going to get it right. Well, I'm going to try. It's just, it has a little burble miss to it. They kind of all do that, but we'll see if we can't at least peak it. So I'm going to be using my laptop today. Oh, and I do run a VM on this, so I'm running Windows. If you're wondering how I'm running the Sniper software, I run it on my laptop. On my Apple with a VM. So we're going to do two different things. We're going to use the static timing function to set the timing static, because normally it does idle. At idle, it does vary the timing to try and stabilize the idle. We want to disable that. You can go into the handheld and disable that. I'm going to do it from here and keep moving through the static timing range, try and figure out where I can peak my vacuum. Same thing with the AFR. Right now, this thing's running a pretty, what I would consider a very rich idle AFR. It's 13.2, but that is definitely where it's happy. So, you know, if it runs good, then it shouldn't matter. I don't like running it that rich, so we're going to see if we can't peak this thing a little bit. But it may just very well be that's where it wants to live. So let's get into it. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit hard to hear because obviously the thing's running. But we're going to start out with a blank page here. All I did was open up the Sniper software. So we're going to download it from the ECU. That's how I'm choosing to do this, so I can go online with it with whatever my most recent learn data is and everything. You could also use the card, but we'll do it this way. Go through and sync, and looks good. This is using the USB, by the way. It's available from Holly. And then I'm going to go up here to USB link, and it says that it's all good. It's talking to it, so now I'm online with it. It says up there, it'll say online. Okay, I can see where I am live here. See? So you see that because it's idling high right now as it's warming up. We don't want to do this until we're up, you know, till we're up to temp 160 or above. But this little indicator here will show you where you are. So once it gets up to temp here, we're going to go ahead and set the timing static. And once the timing is set static, I'm going to play around with the timing numbers to peak my vacuum gauge. You can also use the map sensor. It's a little hard to read on here because there's a latency. This analog vacuum gauge is the best way to tune this. You can see right now I'm during warm-up I'm somewhere between 11 and 12 inches of vacuum, which is not great. It's about all this engine's probably going to make. Talking to the engine builder, you know, we kind of collaborated on that and said, oh yeah, duh, it's 200 cubic inches with this duration. It's a pretty big cam for this duration, or for it's a lot of duration for this size of engine. So anyways, we'll let it warm up here, get up to temp. You can also open up your gauges up here too. You can see it. I don't have a splitter for this, so I don't have my handheld right now. I got to rely on the gauges in the app. Okay, so we're up to temp here. Coolant temperature is about 180. It's a pretty cool day out here. The fan's running very slow. That's just about where it's going to want to sit. So you can see right here, I'm going to start with timing, and we're right at 14 and a half or so. That's just kind of where this curve is at. So what I'm going to do, I can see where I'm at because my map, right, this is manifold absolute pressure or vacuum, and this is RPM down here. This is obviously, it's hovering right in this zone. So I'm just going to play with those numbers right in there right now just to see if I can boost the vacuum a little bit. So we're at between 10 and 12 inches of vacuum. I'm just curious. I'm going to bump this up to like 18. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and right-click. I've highlighted the cells what I want to change. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to offset selected, and then I'm going to use the plus sign, and I'm going to add 4 degrees. And let's keep an eye on the vacuum gauge when I click OK. Let's see what happens here, if we pick up vacuum or not. And we did. We actually picked up about, what's that, about an inch of vacuum there. 10, 11, 12, somewhere between 12 and 13. That's pretty good. So this thing's liking a little bit more timing. I'm not hearing any pinging. Let's add another degree right in this area here. That's offset selected. We're going to go +1. Okay, +1. Let's watch the vacuum gauge. What are we at, about? Almost 12. Almost 12, maybe, I guess right around 12. Didn't really change much, did it? Let's add another degree. Offset selected. That's going to put us at 20. That's probably going to start pinging, but let's do it. So let's go +1. Yeah, that's not really adding any value. Let's try subtracting 3. We're going to go -3. Okay, that puts us at about 17 inches. Or, excuse me, 17 degrees. And it looks like we're backing off on the vacuum. So it's looking like 18 is probably going to be pretty good. It's better than 14, we'll put it that way. So offset selective, let's put another degree back into it here. We're going to go +1. Okay. Yeah, it's a little bit happier. It's still burbly, but we are getting a little bit more out of it. We're getting more vacuum, and that's a good thing. You know, we could really push this and just offset it like 4 more degrees and see what it does, just out of curiosity. I can always put it back, right? Let's see. Offset selected. We're going to, what are we at right now? 18, 19, 20, 21. Let's add 3 degrees. Let's see what happens. +3. And I'm going to hit enter here. Boy, that's buying us even more, isn't it? Boy, it likes that. Well, what are we at, about 12 and a half? About 12 and a half. That's not bad. It's not bad. So I'm going to play with this a little bit here, and we'll see where we can peak it. It'll be a little easier if I'm not holding the camera, but you guys get the idea. You know, you can see I'm at 21 degrees right now, and we're hovering at about 12 and a half. That's pretty good, and it's not pinging that I can hear. So this is going to be slightly unfortunate for everyone, but while I was playing around with this, a friend of mine who's helping me tune it happened to contact me right as I was playing with this, and I said, hey, by the way, you know, I'm noticing the timing here. I'm playing with it, and he ended up, we kind of ended up doing a live session where we shared screens on the computer, and we kind of started going through it. You know, I couldn't tell you how to curve this really well. Anyways, I mean, I know how to do it, but it's on Holly's website. They'll tell you how to write a curve. They've got a YouTube video. You'd be better off than looking at that than mine. But we did recurve this. This engine just really likes a lot of timing, or this cam, you know, particularly this cam likes a lot of initial timing. It's not pinging or anything, and I just drove it. I just drove the crap out of it, actually. Yeah, like I showed in the last segment, the only thing that we've changed is, instead of just changing that one little area, is we've recurved this timing to just come in a lot sooner. I didn't change anything here. You know, we just left this right around 23, 24 degrees. They don't like a lot of advance up at the higher RPM range, you know, 2000 and on. Because these engines tend to knock. Remember, it's a very short stroke. You know, like a big block Chevy likes a lot of timing. They're like 36, 38 degrees of timing. These just don't. we did recurve it a little bit, which primarily, like I said, ended up changing. We just moved all this up. So I was right around 14. Now we're at about 19 and a half, almost 20 degrees at idle, which is a lot of timing at idle, but it likes it. It likes it. That's where the vacuum is peaking. So now instead of me being at about 11 inches of vacuum, I'm about 13. That's two extra inches of vacuum make a big difference as well. But what I want you guys to get out of this is, hook up to it, start playing around with it. You're not going to hurt anything. The worst thing you're going to do is make it ping or something. You just undo whatever you did. Or you're going to, shut it down for some reason because you fingered something in it. You made it 10 times what it was supposed to be. But you can get in there, hook up your vacuum gauge just like you would with a carburetor, and you're going to tune your timing in your AFR. The AFR, I didn't really change it. I'm not seeing a big difference whether I make it 14 or 13.2. It's not picking up any vacuum. Now, running it at 13.2, it does like to return to idle a lot better. So I'm going to leave it a little bit rich. It just, look, some engines like that. And these logs they're very odd. They're unconventional. Don't compare this to a V8 because it's not the same. It's not. So like I said, extra timing really kind of brought this thing around, and we were bringing the curve in really early. It's pretty much, this thing's going to be all in. We're pretty much all in at about 2250, which is great. And then of course, as the map drops or the vacuum, as you lose vacuum, you're going to want to back it off. That's why this curve comes up like this, and we're not throwing a lot of timing in here. These things don't like a lot of timing under load, which I'm repeating myself, but that's an important point. We matched the data log. We started looking at the RPM acceleration curve, and we kind of matched that, what we were seeing in the logs. We kind of matched this curve. So anyways, that's just a quick idle timing adjustment on a 200 with a 2V Sniper Sniper 2300. So maybe that'll help you out. This particular cam does seem to like a lot of timing. Here we have the inside of a trunk. So tomorrow, this thing is going over and getting the exhaust installed, and I kind of debated how I was going to do this. If I was going to put the header on and scab some glass packs on it or something, and I got to looking at it, and I said, this is a big pain in the ass. I'm just going to have them do the whole thing. So here's everything that we're taking to them. Remflex gasket for the header. This is the 3061. The 3016 is for manifolds. 3061 is for headers. We've got Thrush Mufflers. They probably would have mufflers. I bought these because I was going to scab it together. But I'm just going to hand them these. I want to use these because they're relatively quiet, but they flow decent. Thrush Mufflers, which are turbo mufflers, I think they're made by Walker now. They've been around for a long time. They'll work perfectly on this thing. We've got the lead pipes. It comes with 2 of them pre-bent. I'm not sure how close or far they are, but the O2 sensor, I'm going to put number 1, 2, and 3 because those are the most equally close in length. Not that it really matters, but at any rate, they tell you the O2 needs to be 3 to 6 inches from the collector. This is where the collector starts. This is 3 inches. I'm going to go probably another 2 or 3. So the O2 is going to go into the lead pipe. I've got stainless bungs. I've got 2 of them. I'm probably going to have them put 1 in each just in case I want to move the O2 to this collector, which is 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. That's where I plan to put it. And then I've included all the parts for them. We got ourselves some ARP studs in this bag. I'm going to instruct them to use the studs if they can. If they can't, I've also included bolts. Let's see if I can get this thing open here. There we go. All right. So like I said, studs. If they can't use them for some reason, fitment issues or whatever, I'll instruct them to then use the bolts. I've actually written out the instructions just as a reminder for myself, and they can use this if they can read my scribble, where I made a bunch of notes on here. Let's go through them all. Remflex gasket and all hardware included. I've included header studs. If the studs don't work, I included bolts too. Bottom of the header flange may hit the block. may have to grind the flange. So yeah, that's a known issue with these. I didn't actually know it until after I had it coated, which kind of is irritating, but whatever. The bottom of this flange may hit the block depending on how much things have been milled. The head and the block have been milled. I'm not sure if it's going to be a problem. If so, they have to grind a chamfer on that flange on the bottom in order to make it fit. So I'm going to tell them that may be something they run into. 2 turbo mufflers included. Put O2 in front bank. Install 3 to 6 inches past collector. Stainless bungs included in the bag. I asked them to please save the manifold for me. Be careful. The head has helicoils in it, several bolt holes in the exhaust. So that's really important to tell them. They should come out because we just put it on and it's got anti-seize in it. But that is something that's important to note. That's why I want to use the studs, because then we don't have to worry about ruining the helicoils in the head. But telling them that up ahead, they'll know not to. They'll know to be a little bit more careful with it if necessary. So that's the instructions. We've got the donut seals that fit these headers, and I did talk to Paul Stiegel, who is kind of an expert with these headers. By the way, these go on like this. It'd help if it was in frame, wouldn't it? They go like that. Paul said the closest replacement that's out there are these. 31619. These are Walker, I want to say. There's probably another brand that fits. I've got extra ones just in case they need them. I noticed that these aren't quite as tall, but they'll probably still work. I'm actually certain they will because Paul is using them himself. So that's the spare donuts. Of course, the clamps, these slide up the pipes, and the hardware, this was all included with the header. And I'm including one bung plug for the bung that's not going to have an O2 in it, so they can put that in there and seal it off if needed. Well, it will be needed if I have them put 2 bungs in it. They know how this stuff all goes together anyways. They're an exhaust shop, and this particular guy is pretty sharp. He did the exhaust that's on my blue truck, and that's a full 3-inch exhaust all the way out the back. So we'll be going to 3C performance exhaust in LA here. They're one of the only exhaust shops in LA, unless you go to Midas Muffler, which is not exactly on the top of my list. And they've got incredible reviews. They've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of reviews on Google, and they are, I think, just about all 5 stars. So Lewis out there, he's the master with this stuff. So anyways, we're going to take it out there. Now let's take a look under the hood and see what we had to do to make clearance for the header. Okay, so here's the clearance for the header. This is it's very hard to see because the light's not great, but this is actually a alternator bracket from a 300, which would actually be upside down. But I've modified it to work. It was the suggestion that Jeff Jones. So I had to straighten it. I had to take the jog out of it, and it's got one washer spacing it on the water pump 5/16 bolt to get it at the right offset. This gives me more than enough room to play. I've actually measured it out. This is a 3-inch longer belt. I went from a 34 to a 37-inch belt. I may reel that in a little bit after the exhaust is in here. See how I want to run the shortest belt possible. The shorter the belt, the better off you are. So we'll see how that ends up working, but I've got more than enough room. I had to reroute the starter cable, power cable. You'll remember in an earlier video I made a new cable for this. I had had extra cable lying around, and I made a longer cable and routed it from the solenoid around the shock tower, P-clipped it there, came up, and I came up backwards on the starter right there. That gets it out of this path right here where it was, because the header's going to need all this space down in here. So those are the modifications that I had to make in order to accommodate the header. So tomorrow we'll roll this thing into the shop down there, and they'll probably have it all day. because it's a little bit of work to do this. And we're going to take it out. It's dual 2-inch. The header collectors are 2-inch, and we're going to take it all the way out the rear. And I'm going to do it kind of similar to a V8. We're going to have, you know, an outlet here and an outlet here. So it should turn out pretty nice. So this is more of an update more than anything else, unlike where most of my videos are me actually explaining how to do something or doing something. This is somebody else did something for me, just because exhaust systems are not really something you can do at home unless you have the right equipment. I don't like prefabbed or pre-bent systems. They never fit exactly like they're supposed to, so I always have my exhaust systems fabricated. A lot of the times what I do is I'll put the header on and put some mufflers in, you know, just temp in something and go have it done. In this case, the way the header sits in here and the way the pipes need to go would have been kind of difficult to fab up something temporary, so I just had the exhaust guy do it all. I gave him all the parts, Remflex gasket, the studs, everything. I think I went over some of the parts. No problems. He was able to get it in. Went quite well. You see the O2. Can you? You can see the O2s right down there. So I had him put it in 1, 2, 3. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter, but I like that they're more equal in length. Number 6 kind of wraps around, and I don't know, I just felt like 1, 2, and 3 would be better. Definitely has a completely different tone to it. We'll get some video of, I'll insert some video here of what it sounds like. Didn't improve the idle quality at all. I thought maybe moving the O2 would. It's still burbly a little bit, but I think that's just kind of how it's always going to be. That's just what I hear from others that have similar setups. The idle quality is just not the best. When it's in gear under load, it's a lot less noticeable. It's not anything that bothers me. It drives really nice. I've been spending a lot of time getting the tune right. I can see what's going on in it. Maybe I'll share some of what I've seen in the tune. I think I've mentioned before, I can see what's going on in the tune, but I don't necessarily know the right ways to fix it. I've had a little bit of help, obviously. I'm probably going to hire a tuner. I did contact a dyno tuner that's local here that's really well known, and they didn't want to touch it. He said he wasn't familiar with this motor, which I think is kind of a cop-out. Look, an engine's an engine, and it makes power, and you peak it for power and torque. I don't understand that, so I just kind of wrote him off. I was like, well, I guess you don't want my business. So I got to try and find another dyno tuner. I'm thinking about doing the Adam Langen, I think his name is, on the Holly Sniper forum. I reached out to him. He's given me some pricing and stuff. My only issue with that is I don't really so much need a remote tuner as I need some dyno time. So I'd really like to find somebody local here in LA that does sniper dyno tuning. Let's take a look real quick at what we got underneath the car. I'll do my best to show it. The car, unfortunately, was not up on the lift still when I went to go pick it up at the exhaust shop, so I couldn't get some video underneath it like I wanted to. So let me do my best here. Alright, so as seen from the driver's side, you can see the 2 pipes, the way he routed them. I did have him put an H pipe in. That cuts way down on drone. I think I always put an H pipe in. There's the mufflers right there. Those again are the Thrush turbos. I think I did talk about what I've got in, what parts I got for it. He set it up just like a V8. Basically, from this point forward, it's just like you'd do a V8. And then I just had him turn it down behind the rear skirt. Here are the turn downs at the rear skirt. Came out pretty nice. You can see, obviously, I've got one on either side. It sounds pretty good, in my opinion. It's a little bit louder than I'd hoped at idle. It's very reminiscent of a tractor or a diesel. And I believe that's it's not actually dieseling or anything like that. It's just it has to do with the way that the cadence pulses work on an inline six versus a V8. Remember, a V8 you're firing every 90 degrees. This thing's firing every 120 degrees. It's interesting because it sounds like a V8, but if you've got a trained ear and you know what a V8 sounds like, it sounds a little bit off. It sounds just a little bit off. But if you didn't know any better, if you don't know anything about cars, this thing sounds like it's got a V8 in it. It's I think it sounds pretty good. It's like a high compression sounding kind of engine. This thing's only 9.3 to 1, but it's funny because just the way it's popping out of the rear end, out of the pipes, it sounds like a motor that's 13 to 1. I don't know why that is, but I think it sounds pretty good. I think I'm getting used to it. I've been driving it a bit. If I don't end up getting used to it, I may put resonators really are for drone, though. I don't really have a drone problem. I may put like a set of glass packs before the mufflers just to kind of tone it down a little bit more. But it's interesting because at idle is the only time it's loud. As soon as you get it up, 1300 RPM, it's very very nice sounding. It's not loud in the car. There's no drone, nothing that's going to give you a headache, no resonance. So I think it did come out really well. Performance-wise, made a big difference. Of course, anything over 2,500 RPM, this thing is she's screaming now. It's getting to the point with the tune and the exhaust now. It's actually becoming fun to drive. It was kind of, I felt like it just didn't have enough power. We did discover, looking at the tune, that there wasn't enough accel enrichment, so we've been playing with that. I'm really kind of getting as far as I can with the help that I've got, my knowledge. It's not even my knowledge so much. It's, you got to drive it, run a log, drive it, run a log, drive it, run a log. And that is challenging for a number of reasons. I live in LA, so, try and find a good stretch of road that's close, that you can run it and check it. And second of all, it's kind of hard to speed in the city. When you need to really wind it out first and second to see what the numbers look like. This is where you really need a dyno. But in general, I'm pretty happy with the way it's running. It could totally stay the way that it is. I just know that it's got more in it. Of course, I always watch a little TV while I'm editing video. Just a final note on the last segment, if you made it this far into the movie. It's running awesome now. Got the timing sorted out. The timing is just not coming in soon enough, so I'm happy with it. I probably will get a dyno tune eventually just to peak it, but it's great the way that it is right now.